Okay, today we're going to have a review on binary analysis. And I've listed 3 very important questions that you want to ask yourself whenever you're asked to analyze a piece that's in binary. The first one, does the piece divide into 2 parts? So if yes, we know it's binary. If not, it's not binary. It's a very simple question. But what is the easiest way to tell if the piece divides into 2 parts? And that clue would be the repeat signs. So observe the repeat signs. If the composer includes the repeat signs that divide the piece into 2 parts, even if the 2 parts are not equal in length, that shows the composer is thinking of the piece in 2 parts as a 2-part form, hence binary. Okay, so that's the first important question to ask yourself whenever you think you might be looking at a piece that's binary. And the second question deals with the tonal aspect of a binary piece. So the second question is, what cadence ends the first section? Does the key change? So what cadence? So if we look at a piece that's in binary, that means we're probably seeing something like this. Different materials here to a repeat sign, and then the first part gets repeated, and the second part, and that also gets repeated. Okay, so in that case, what we want to study is here, the end of the first section. We want to see what cadence ends the first section. So in this case, if we are looking at tonic or minor, tonic if we're in minor, if it's tonic in the original key, then we know we are looking at what we call sectional binary. And if it's not tonic in the original key, that tells us we're looking at a continuous binary. Okay. So that's that. So 2 possibilities, sectional binary or continuous binary. And where you need to look, what you need to ask yourself is, what cadence ends the first section? So right over here. Okay. And why don't we look at the opening? Why don't we look at the end? It's equally important that we know what's going on there, but the reason is because if we're looking at a piece that's tonal music, it's going to start in tonic and it's going to end in tonic. So that doesn't really change. That doesn't really make a difference there. So what we want to study, the difference of different types of binary, is here, the end of the first section. If it's in the original key, in tonic, it's called sectional binary. If it's not the tonic in the original key, which is possible, like landing on a half cadence or actually changing to a different key, no matter what, as long as it's not tonic in the original key, it's called continuous binary. Okay, so that's the second important question you want to ask yourself whenever you're analyzing a piece that's in binary. And now the third question to ask yourself is regarding the thematic or melodic material. So you want to ask yourself, does the opening material, which we call A, return at the end of the second section? Okay, so if I use this chart that I wrote up here, so opening material would refer to this part, so the beginning of these X's. So does that return at the end of the second section? So note we're not looking here. We're looking more like the second half of the second section. We're looking to see if that opening material returns over here. And if it does it repeat exactly or does it vary a little bit? Okay, so if it does return, that's what we call a rounded binary. Okay. And if it never returns, if the whole piece looks like it's more like through composed, that's what we call simple binary. And in slightly less common cases, what we see is an example like this. So let me give you an example. Let's say we have the opening section and starts with A's, and then it goes into X's. That's the first section. And that first section gets repeated. And now we move into the second section. It starts with B's, which is contrasting, something we use, a symbol we use to show the contrast from the previous section. And at this point, we realize, oh, those X's returns. So in this situation, the opening material A never returns in the second section. However, the ending material from the first section does return at the end of the section. So this is what we call a balanced binary. Okay, so those are the three most important things to ask yourself. First of all, does the piece divide into two parts? If it does, we're looking at a binary piece. And the best way to see that is to observe the repeat signs. And the second question, what cadence ends the first section? So at this point, you're looking at here, right before that repeat sign at the end of the first section. And if it's tonic in the original key, sectional binary. If it's anything else, continuous binary. So only those two possibilities. Okay, and the third question you're going to ask yourself is, does the opening material return at the end of the second section? So if it does return, whether it repeats exactly the same or it varies a little bit, as long as we can see a clear return of the opening material, it's called a rounded binary. And if it never returns at the end of the second section, that's what we call a simple binary. So the whole piece is more like through composed. And in a less common situation, we have this kind of example, which we'll listen to some examples in just a little bit. So in a less common situation, we have this where the first section begins with A, gets into X, repeat. The second section begins with B, contrasting material, goes into the X, which is the ending material from the first section. So in this case, this is what we call a balanced binary.